Man in Gray here with another Man in Gray book review. Today's book is Mexikid, a graphic memoir by Pedro Martin, published in 2023 by Random House Books. It's 316 pages long. This book is a graphic memoir that takes place in the summer of 1977. Pedro Martin came from a large Mexican-American family based in California. 7 kids altogether. Half the kids were born in Mexico and the other half in the United States. And Pedro was one of the American kids, so he refers to himself as a Mexikid, half Mexican and half American. And in the summer of 1977, the first Star Wars movie had just come out. And like a lot of kids back then, he was obsessed with Star Wars and with superhero comic books. And so he was kind of the nerd of the 7 kids and was always drawing, a budding cartoonist even as a kid. And he finds out that they're going to spend the summer of 77 on a big road trip. They have this RV and a pickup, and they're going to cram everybody into both of these vehicles and drive deep into the heart of Mexico to pick up Pedro's grandfather, who is getting too old to live by himself. And they're going to move him back to California to live with him. And so this is basically the story of this road trip and the summer he spent in Mexico, getting to know his grandfather really for the first time. He'd only seen him briefly and a few other times. And Pedro, being raised in California, only speaks Spanish haltingly, and so he's unfamiliar with the culture. And so part of this book is about the cultural shock that he goes through when he comes to this small town in Mexico. But it's also an adventure story. They get shaken down by corrupt Mexican border agents at the border. Then the RV breaks down on a steep mountain road, and they're having to try to get the vehicle going before somebody hits them or before they fall off the side of the road. And when they get down finally get to the town, they have to adjust to the culture there. His cousins all kind of look down on them because they don't think they're really Mexicans. That's, I've taught school with a number of Mexican American kids, and they feel the same way. When they go to Mexico, they're always looked down on by some of the Mexicans there as not being true Mexicans because they're raised in America. And so he has to get used to that. And when he meets his grandfather turns out to be this very stoic, silent type who kind of stares off into space. And he's still grieving for his wife who had died a number of years before. But Pedro finds out that the grandfather played a minor role in the Mexican Revolution decades before, and so Pedro conflates him into a superhero. He wants to turn him into this superhero guy, but he doesn't. But he later finds out that what his grandfather did wasn't all that heroic. But the real heroic thing was keeping his family together during this terrible Civil War period, which is heroic in itself. So it's a very entertaining, very warm, family-oriented book. One of the most touching scenes is when before the grandfather refuses to go back to California unless they move his wife's grave because she was buried in this poor cemetery which is dilapidated, and the water table's rising, and so the graves are being contaminated by water. And so they go out there and dig up her body and transfer it to another mausoleum on higher ground. And it's got that kind of Day of the Dead feel to it, where you're honoring the dead by moving the grave to another place. So it's a very entertaining story, told, of course, in graphic form. So if you enjoy graphic novels, you'll like this. It's even more touching because it's a real story. And he has great affection for everybody. There's no real villains in this story. He has great affection for all the characters in there, and you really get to know his brothers and sisters. They all have different personalities, and at the back of the book, you see photographs of what they really look like. So, if you enjoy graphic novels and you're interested in this kind of thing, this will be a fine book to read. I give it very high recommendations. It's one of the best graphic memoirs I've read. The book is Mexikid, and the author is Pedro Martin. This has been another Man in Gray book review. Thanks for watching.